Can I know a bit more upon how did you actually enter the industry from IIM Bangalore you mentioned, right? Can you put more light on it?
Sure. So in Bangalore,
True,
when it
true.
rains, majority of the bikers or two wheelers they block half of the road because they also have to get prevent from the rain. So because of that, there was a huge traffic jam and all. So that is where the mentor he suggested that why exactly you. In fact, my mentor was Mr. Nagarada Prakasam only. So he guided me that why exactly you make a two wheeler which can provide the comfort of like a car kind of thing. That is where from there
Hmm.
this inception came up.
To kick things off, we have joined by Rishabh Sinha, a visionary founder of SINA Mobility, who reimagines the electric mobility in India. I'm your host Mognesh and I can't wait to take you all through the journey. So, Rishabh, for people who don't know you, what do you do? Who are you? And why should people listen to you?
Right now, I'm a resident mentor in Alliance University, which is a department of under technology business incubator in Alliance University. Apart from this, I'm also a founder of the company SINA Mobility, which is an electric vehicle startup company. So we are developing an two-wheeled electric car, a first of its kind, a new completely category.
Nice. So, can you actually tell us about your education and where have you been from?
I completed my graduation basically from information technology in Delhi, in Noida, basically from JP Institute of Information Technology. Post that, since my interest has always been towards cars and automotive cars, bikes, and all, so I got extremely lucky that I got a sponsorship from Milan-based university with the name of SPD. Globally, at that point of time, when we were admitted, that time it was in Europe, it was second best college, as well as globally it was fourth rank with respect to automotive designing. And like I got extremely lucky that I got a sponsorship for that. And post entering there, I got to know during that time VW, Volkswagen, and Lamborghini, like it was the only college which was sponsored by VW and Lamborghini. So my thesis project it was fully sponsored by Volkswagen only. They wanted to develop a hatchback, a German hatchback for year around 2027. So they want new designs and all. And so I was the chief designer for that project. I was a team leader in fact for that project. So we developed that thing. We displayed that in their headquarter and all, and we received quite a good appreciation during this stint only. For a very small period of time, I was a part of Lamborghini team also, like for a very small project, like 2 weeks only, thanks to my seniors who was already a part of Lamborghini team. And so there only I got to know about the course which is known as Car Design Academy. It is basically running from Japan, and it is basically an online course. So offline thing I was not that much comfortable, so I preferred this thing online course. So post completing this thing, and then I started my journey as a job as a chief designer.
So, in all this journey, how did SINA Mobility took birth?
As mentioned earlier, post completing my education in CDA, the online course, I got an offer from a Bangalore-based automotive design firm. So there I was the chief designer. So when I was working on these concept and all, as I mentioned that I was quite into cars, motorbikes, and all this kind of stuff and all. Similarly, so in Bangalore, every Saturdays, Sundays, and all, there's a lot of startup events and all that used to happen in five-star hotels and all. So there I used to visit this thing. So from there I got a knack about what exactly is the startup. Apart from that, there was something in, if you know, there is a YouTube channel with the name of TVF, the Viral Fever.
TVS.
They
Okay.
had a
Oh, yes.
yeah. They had a very popular this thing regarding startup. I'm unable to remember the name, but it was purely on startup with the name of Naveen. Like they had 4 characters, Naveen, other guys, and all. So that gave me an idea about this thing, about more about the startups thing and all. And you can say that I was into cars. I was very much impressed by what Tesla was doing. Apart from that, there was a car company with the name of Maini.
Many.
Yeah, started by Chetan Maini,
Okay.
Chetan Maini sir. So with the name of Reva, Maini Reva. So that also inspired me about this thing. So my first instinct was to be working towards electric cars, electric this thing and all. My dad had an accident back in I think 2004 or 5, where he had a very drastic accident due to which for the past like 8 to 9 years of his time, he had a major head injury. Now that led to my parents, my mom, and especially my relatives and all. They said that completely no, you can go and purchase a car, but definitely not a bike, which is because KTM is well known for performance and all.
Yes.
So they said no. So that is where the whole instinct of developing a motorcycle, which will be solving this accident issues and all, that came up. That is where I got in touch with. So that time, NSRCL, IIM Bangalore, they were also starting their program and all. I got to know about the advertisement. I approached them. So based on the advice from the mentors and all, so what we defined is why we cannot make a two-wheeler where you'll be getting all the protection, the safety and comfort of a car, whereas you will be having the maneuverability, agility of a motorcycle.
Okay.
That was basically inception for this concept.
So, from your family's perception and the incidents which happened, the SINA Mobility basically took the birth.
Yep.
Can I know a bit more upon how did you actually enter the industry from IIM Bangalore you mentioned, right? Can you put more light on it?
Sure. So as I mentioned that they first advertised about this NSRCL program, about the cohort that they were introducing. Then there I approached them, and then I interacted more about this thing with one of the mentors there. They guided me how exactly you should be making this thing. So previously I was having an idea about making this thing, an electric motorcycle or a car or those kind of thing. So he refined because that time also in Bangalore it rains a lot. And if you have been to IIM campus, it's nearby to it. When it crosses the dairy circle, right, there is a underpass.
True,
When
true.
it rains, then like majority of the bikers or two-wheelers, they block half of the road because they also have to get prevent from the rain. So they just undergo this thing. And so because of that, there was a huge traffic jam and all. So that is where the mentor, he suggested that why exactly in fact my mentor was Mr. Nagarada Prakasam only. So he guided me that why exactly you make a two-wheeler which can provide the comfort of like a car kind of thing. That is where from there this inception came up. And then because so IIM Bangalore is primarily towards management and all those courses and all. They are not into technical stuff and all. So there when I was studying, now the problem with me is that I was into designing. So my whole career, professional career, have been into designing, which you can say is as a liberal arts or automotive designer. Now, and before that, I did my graduation from computer science. This is completely about engineering, automotive engineering, for which I had zero idea. Then, as per different like newbies and all, even I went to YouTube. I did a lot of study on this thing, how exactly this thing is done and all. Post 3 months, I think we made like close to 25, 30 prototypes and all, small scale prototypes. And then I remember it was the 31st prototype which came out to be good and which was working. That at least I can show it to the. Then we showed it to Mr. Naga sir, as well as different authorities inside NSRCL in IMB only. So that gave me a path. Now that gave you a trust to other guys also. So that is where, as I mentioned, that it is this company is still now bootstrapped. So that convinced my parents as well as this thing to put in some money. With that money, we basically made a more refined prototype and all. Once those things were refined, then they were since IIM Bangalore is basically a national institute, right, a central institute.
Yes.
So as NSRCL or IIM Bangalore, they have an active MOU with IIIT Bangalore as well as ISC Bangalore. Now this IIIT Bangalore and ISC Bangalore, they are purely into technical and all. There I can develop the complete technology. So initially I approached ISC. So ISC said that they at that point of time they were into drones and all this kind of stuff. But with respect to gyroscope, this is a very new concept. So they might not be able to help that much as I was thinking. So with few of the faculties that I had a word with. So then I had a word with IIIT. IIIT, they were also not that much open to this idea kind of thing. Then I got extremely lucky that I got in touch with the professors in IIM Bangalore. They connected us to IIT Madras and IIT Bombay. I sent a proposal to both of them, and then IIT Madras responded first. I mean, after 1 week, of response of IIT Madras, IIT Bombay responded. And by that time, even I was following even Aether Energy. They were already having good traction and all.
Yes.
And the other thing is that since IIT Madras in a lot of technical companies were coming, and Ather already had a good traction, so they knew how exactly to make a two-wheeler. So I got extremely lucky that then I am Bangalore. So this is where the whole I am Bangalore thing was coming into picture, and then I got shifted to IIT Chennai back in 2017.
In EVs industry, which is currently there in the market, Ather, Ola are the key players in the market, right? So you also mentioned that you got to work with the Ather members, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So what makes us different from them? So SINA Mobility's vehicles are there, right? So these are also got inspired from different electric vehicles. So how are we making difference in the industry?
Great, perfect. So one of the major key difference, which we can also say it as a USP, unique selling proposition,
Yes.
about my vehicle, which completely differentiated from all the other competitors, the name that you took right now, along with all the established players who is also into EV two-wheelers and EV players and all, is the first thing is we are a two-wheeler, but apart from that, you are getting all the benefits of a car in a two-wheeler. Consider North India like Delhi, Rajasthan and all these
It
places.
will be
and all.
40 around.
Yeah, beyond 40. 40 is considered to be cooler there. Yeah, so 45, 48, 48, 45, it easily goes in Delhi, Rajasthan. So in those areas, as I mentioned that the summers are quite high. So the thing is, it is a bit inconvenient to ride two-wheelers because of the excess heat. So that is the reason we prefer either an auto, rickshaw or any of these other mode of transportation. Now that is where our vehicle is coming into picture. So the key differentiating factor we are having is two. The first one is with respect to safety. When I am saying safety, then even if you are a complete novice, you don't know how to ride a motorcycle, or you are a bit scared due to the safety factor of this thing. In this case, you don't need to worry. As in a typical car, you open the gate, you sit down on the seat, strap on the seat belt, start riding. Even if you are a bit scared how to ride motorcycle, in this thing, you don't need to worry. This is the first part with respect to safety. So, and since I have said with respect to safety, so one of the points that I would like to highlight here is, see, India is the biggest two-wheeler market, right?
Yes.
But unfortunately, as per the government data only, back in 2018, as per the government data, every hour, like close to 18 accidents was happening due to two-wheeler, out of which 5 every hour, out of which 5 were dying. So now that makes it far more like a common problem that is faced by almost every Indian and all.
True, like I never got to know about this actual data.
Sure. So this is where our solution is coming. Again, I'm not claiming that it will be 100% safe, and you won't, but the thing is that the fatalities that you might be having in any of the conventional two-wheeler that you won't be having here. Consider the worst situation, even if the vehicle falls down, the outer shell and other thing will be protecting you from the fatal accident that might have occurred if there was no in conventional any two-wheeler. This is the first aspect regarding the safety. The second thing is more about the comfort or convenience. So these are the two differentiating factor.
So can we actually stress more on the part of balancing bikes, because this concept is still coming out in the market. It's not completely established. So if I'm not wrong, there are also competitors in the market for the concept balancing bikes. So there are not exactly from India, but all over the world, this concept is coming up. But you already have been working on it, and you already made product, and you also had pre-sales for it. So what is the whole concept of balancing bikes for the audience who are listening to the podcast? How this is actually happening?
Okay, great. So this technology is basically known as CMG, control moment gyroscope.
Okay.
So if we see, gyroscopes are basically of two kinds. One is the electronic gyroscope, and the other one is a mechanical gyroscope. The mechanical gyroscope we can see is, so CMG is one of the mechanical gyroscope. With respect to electronic gyroscope, so the other name that is given to it is IMU, inertial measurement unit. It is also known as this thing. Now, so consider any and every smartphone that we see. I mean, the moment we tilt the phone, it changes its orientation from portrait to landscape.
Yes.
So it basically uses this IMU or the electronic gyroscope. It basically tells that at what angle this thing has tilted. That is the only work.
Okay.
Whereas the mechanical gyroscope, it basically it not only tells the direction, but it also forces a heavy object to turn in that particular direction.
Okay.
Just to give you a rough idea about mechanical gyroscope, any and every object which is in 3 dimension, it basically they have to use a mechanical gyroscope. Now, so CMG, the control moment gyroscope that I am talking about, it is basically a 2-axis gyroscope. Now, this is one of the most advanced gyroscope that has been. So, initially this gyroscopic technology was developed by NASA back in 2003, and almost all the satellites that you see. So, all the satellites, as I mentioned, that any and every object which is in 3 dimension, right? So, that includes like satellites, like aeroplanes, flights, and all this kind of thing. They uses this the CMG concept. This is one thing, and also consider this one, the ships and all. Ship, in a way, we can consider it is not exactly a 3 dimension, but in a way, because of the lot of sloshing and all, we can assume that it is in a 3 dimension. That is where also this gyroscope is used, a mechanical gyroscope is used. Now, so this concept has been from earlier. So what we converted it more, it will be more specific for a 2-wheeler where we can balance this thing, because if we consider motorcycle, right, then either it can fall on one side or the other side.
Yes.
That is the only thing that we have to prevent here, as compared to typical aeroplane.
Spaceships or
Yeah.
airplanes.
Here you just need to balance in 2 dimension. That's it.
So I understand the whole concept, but as a startup, when we are doing all this work, you also mentioned that you already, like, your 31st prototype was the successor. So getting, like, personally funding it, or as a person you got lucky or you had resources to get bootstrapped, but what about this funding? So as a company, if we don't have funds for ourselves, we need to raise funds. It could be loan, or it could be some incubators, or somewhere or the other. What are the resources available in the market, and how these whole thing work?
Right now, we can see that right now there's a lot of government support that is coming up. So if you are a part of any of the incubators, right? So any of the government mentioned, be it private incubators or government incubators, the government in itself is providing an initial support of around 20 lakhs. That is some seed grant that they're providing. This is one form of the grant. The other form that will be coming up is basically from your friends and family. There are multiple good incubators and accelerators who also provide you with this initial support in the form of grants and all those kind of things. So there are these, I have not yet touched the angel investors and VCs and all, because they typically come once you are having a prototype. For developing a prototype, these things come into picture. Like, just to give an example, Alliance University, the incubation that they are having, they also have a grant where, let's suppose that if you're having a startup and if you want to develop an MVP or minimum viable product or a prototype, they provide some kind of grants to develop your this thing. So in today's world, this thing is available. You just need to go and do a research. Government grant is also available in a good way.
For those who don't understand the word incubator in general, can you actually explain what incubator is and how these actually work to help startups?
Great. So basically, incubator has derived from the basic word known as incubation. Now, incubation is basically, let's suppose if a baby is there, right? If a newborn baby is there, in that case, you need a certain environment to basically protect the baby, right? And that is the reason in very much hospitals and all, you have some incubation room.
Yes.
Exactly. So from there only, so when any new company is coming, right? So it is exactly like a newborn. They have zero idea how exactly to move further. They have zero idea about like connecting to the outside market. Even they have zero idea how to even think on startup terms, right? How to think about an idea, how to scale that thing, how to even make to the first level. This is just one aspect. The other aspect that comes into is the legal and compliance. That is extremely like important for any and every company or a startup company. That is where these incubators, right? So these incubators are those physical facility, right, where you get all these facilities. So let's suppose you are only and only having a broken idea. Then there the mentors who is a part of that incubator, they will be guiding you how exactly to shape your idea.
Okay.
and how exactly to proceed further. Now, so let's suppose that if you want to have your own business, so in making that business, you need to have your own either kind of product or a service kind of thing, right? How exactly to proceed further, how to file your systems, the GST, and all the legal and other compliance and all that is being taken care of by these incubators. They have a tie-up with all these CA, secretary, and all those kind of thing and all.
So we can compare the startup as a baby who's newly born.
It is,
We
it
need to
is.
feed them, we need to bridge the gap, and
Yeah.
everything how a baby grows, the startup also grows.
Yeah.
We have been discussing about all the journey of birth of SINA Mobility. For all the young entrepreneurs who are coming out, there will always be a problem of figuring out an idea. They'll be having options, they'll be seeing few problems, but they're unable to identify the right problem and right things to do in the place. So you are someone who figured it out and who did it. So how do you take this and help out the young entrepreneurs who are coming out?
So one of the most important thing that is there is the problem that you are solving. One of the best way to figure that thing is that out is how exactly that problem is close to your own personal thing. As I said about my startup, right? That the main inception of that thing was basically my dad had a major two-wheeler accident. On top of that, my friend, he used to live in Kolkata, right? So in Kolkata, you know that there are tram tracks and all, right? So he was riding a Pulse, I mean, that time. So that time, he also skid due to this tram track. It got, his bike tire got in between the tram and he got skid, and he had also had an accident. So again, so these personal things, it related me to basically start this thing. So what I figured out that boss, there's a huge, there's this a good amount of problem which is in the society, which is with respect to two-wheeler safety. So my original inception was only and only two-wheeler safety. That thing which, because I have personally faced and I wanted to get it solved. So this is one of the way, like, then the other thing is that each and everything that we complain about, that in itself is an opportunity or a startup idea. Let's suppose that many people who are complaining that there's a lot of dirt in the street, the roads are not good. I mean, each and everything that we are complaining, that in itself is a business opportunity. Let's suppose, so one of the things that has came out to be quite common is because of these consider online 10-minute online delivery dark store concept which has came up. Like there are many companies who are providing like 10-minute delivery, instant deliveries and all, right?
Yes.
Now, what that has led into is shutting, not shutting, but the lower sales, especially for Kirana stores. Now, so now what we know is that in whichever areas these guys are going, especially these online e-commerce companies, these are going, in whichever areas they are serving, basically the local Kirana store, they are getting harmed. So that in itself is a good problem, right? Maybe we can have a solution basically to solve that problem. So this is just one of the way, one of the best way to refine your idea or to even think about your idea is have basically those areas which is your area where you like to work a lot.
So once we figure out the idea, just as you mentioned, and then from your journey, I can clearly see that staying towards it and understanding in deep and working on it would eventually lead us to the way. It's not like we have clear path and then we just walk through it.
Yeah.
It's always figuring out the whole journey,
Right.
basically. So you have started your business and getting a nice team with us who can we trust and who we can just leave things on them. That kind of team is like a gem for us. As a person who's dealing with multiple things in a day, these people will give us a rebirth when we meet them. So how did you actually figure out a co-founder for yourself? How did you make yourself a team who are very capable of doing this?
Great. So it is also recommended that especially your initial co-founders and all them have from a circle who is basically from either your friend's friend or basically from your friend circle. The reason is that you will be knowing about him and all. Like consider my co-founder, my current co-founder. So we first met when I was working there. So there, since he is also an automotive passionate, I'm also the same thing. We gelled on a certain topic and then from there our chemistry started. So one of the best thing is, let's suppose that you have started, and now so it is for surety that each and every person will be having some kind of speciality. Let's suppose that one guy will be a coder into mechanical, maybe a BBA, maybe an LLB, or those kind of thing, right? Then the other thing is that about finding a co-founder is you have to figure out what are the things that you will be able to do, and the other thing that you might not be able to do. Figure out in your friend circle, friend circle, mutual, and all those kind of thing. It is basically if you can get in touch with any of these person. This is the first thing. Let's consider the situation that if you are unable to get in touch with any of those guys, the second step that comes up is basically if you can get in touch with an incubator. So those incubators, they will try to get in touch with, they will try to connect you with one of the co-founders or those kind of thing. So it is all slowly that will be happening. But one of the most important thing is, I mean, it's considered a red flag the moment if you're planning to have a guy as a co-founder, and then he like among the first few questions, if not the first question, but among the first few questions, if you start to say that how much will it be equity and all those kind of thing and all, then that in itself is a red flag. Because any and every co-founder, the only agenda should be, if not the only, but the first agenda should be the growth of the company. Because till the time the company has not growth, then I mean all these are just on paper, it matters zero.
So about co-founder now, like it's clear, but how about the team? Because hiring and training and development, all these things come in the HR context, right? How did you handle it?
Great. It was quite difficult. I remember the first hiring that I did. So so the first hiring that I did him as a full-time kind of thing, and I gave some kind of equity. Something happened, and like the chemistry bond and all, it didn't gel with us, right? So that so again, I got extremely lucky that the first guy who joined our company, right, he was quite well. From that, from him also, he was from automotive background. He has done multiple projects in this thing. So even before I went to hire, I first did a study myself only. I did a research that if I want to hire this guy, what are the things to be followed and all. So I did a lot of research on this thing. I think I remember very well. Every day I used to sit for a month or something. Every day, like easily 6 to 7 hours, I used to only dedicate to this thing, because as I mentioned, that I was completely from non-tech background. Now the thing is that if you want to hire a guy, you need to have an idea about the tech, right? So that you can at least interview them, right?
Yes.
You can ask them technical questions and all. So that is that's what like studied. Once I got a good idea that whom to hire and all, what all questions to ask and all. Again, I was not pretty much sure even about the answers, that the answer that he is giving, whether that thing is correct or not. I'm not worried about that thing, but the thing that I'm worried is that at least I will be having some idea. I'll be able to judge how exactly is he and all. So that is where, so I got lucky, and the first hiring that I did, he also taught me how exactly, because that guy, he has already developed this multiple projects. So in these engineering colleges, multiple competitions happen, automotive competition,
Yes,
like
yes.
Baha, Formula Bharat, SAE, and these races and all happens, right? So so he already have participated in this thing, and he have idea about the mechanical, the tech part, the engineering part. Now, so I remember that I was not having idea about the tech, although I was studying it myself, right? So so once I hired, then things didn't went well and all, and he started his own venture. Like he left and he started his own
So
venture.
he left the organization, like your organization, and started his own part.
Yeah, his own thing and all. I mean, it was a mutual discussion. So his nature was quite good and all, and it was a mutual decision that he will be starting his own venture and all. I said that, yeah, perfect. I mean, you can go. That gave me an idea about the whole. So previously, which I was not having idea about the engineering. Now I got an idea about the engineering. So from the next thing, what I started to follow is, so even till now I follow the same thing. So any and every person whom I'll be hiring, so for the first 3 years, for the first 3 months, it will be based on internship, like a probation period that you can consider. It is common for each and everyone. For the first 3 months, it will be on interns. So if your performance and if I gel quite well and all, then in that case, I'll convert it into a full time. Else, it will be purely on interns and those kind of thing. So I followed that thing until now. That has given me a good result. So in that case, the thing is that when you do a hiring, especially during this thing and all, especially when you do the technical round and all those rounds and all, then it is quite difficult to understand the human, the guy who is doing the interview, his perspective also, his nature and all also. So this 3 month now, it gives time basically for him also, the guy who is joining as an intern, basically for him also, whether will he be able to gel with the company, gel with the founder, like gel with me and all, my other co-founder and all. If he is not, then post 3 months, he'll be getting all the stipend, the certificate and all, and he'll be moving away. If he thinks that we both will be gelling together, then we both will be continuing together as a full time.
Okay. So, when we move a bit more on this, so there is always an issue that EVs blast, right? It's a very big concern, to be very honest. Like, it's real. Like, I also saw myself that AEV on fire, but as a person, I never saw a vehicle which is running on a petrol, never got any blast. Like, there are cases, but I personally never saw in physical. So, what do you take on? What is your take on it?
Great, amazing question. First, I'll take on the IC part and like the engine part, and then I'll take on, especially with respect to blasting, and then I'll take on the battery part.
Sure.
I'll basically second on your opinion where you were saying that engine had. So if I consider this thing was first developed in 1980s, 85s, and all those kind of things, right? So from that time, it has always been on evolving stage. If we consider, the engines of that time also, the blast and all used to happen a lot. You can do this thing, but so the thing is that globally there has been a lot of advancement that has been happening. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is that if we'll figure out globally, only very few limited companies are there who are able to make good engines. So what it means is that making engine itself is quite sophisticated and quite complicated.
True.
Even after, if we consider automotive history, it first started back in 1907, right?
Yeah, very
very early. The most advanced engine that we are considering, consider Hindustan Motors, Ambassador and all those vehicles, they were also using ICE engine and all. So all the refinement has been happening from that time and all. So that is the reason like today's engine is so much technologically advanced that forget about, we can't have any kind of fire accidents and all those kind of things. It is because of the advancement that has happened over a period of time. This is with respect to engine. The combustion engine.
Yes.
Now, coming on to the batteries part, one of the major reason, in fact, how stable your battery pack is, it all depends on how stable is your BMS, which we also say it as a battery management system. So here two things comes up. If I talk about the previous company's name that you took, where a lot of vehicle was blasting, especially in its first year of inception when they started selling the vehicles, a lot of vehicle was going on fire. So the BMS was not that much advanced to basically, so they also introduced one of the hyper mode, like the topmost mode where you can like a hyper vehicle.
Yes.
So many of the users, they were always using in this hyper. Their BMS was not built to basically adapt to this thing. Now,
Okay.
so one of the thing is, so consider these lithium ion cells. So okay, here if you talk about battery, then the battery is also, as of now we are talking, it is with respect to commercial viability, two of the most different kind of cell chemistry that is primarily used. One is the LFP and the other one is the NMC. These two are the different most commercially viable or most commercially used, these two different cell chemistry battery cells which are available right now. Now, in that case, LFP is considered to be more stable, thermally stable as compared to this one. Now, in both of these batteries, they use lithium only. The point is that the separator that they use, the electrolyte that they use, these differ. Like here, it is the phosphate thing, and the other side it is the sodium thing. Basically, the electrolyte and the separator. Regarding the blow up of the batteries, it is because of the BMS was not tested up to that level. This is one the case. The second thing is the BMS that was using was cheap Chinese BMS that was being used. Now, as I mentioned that since the BMS was not used and the temperature in India is quite high, it's quite extreme and all. So due to which, as I mentioned that, due to that was the prime reason for all this blasting and all. So you might have seen since past 3 to 4 years or something, there has been a lot of advancement in terms of BMS that has led down to the lowered down the battery burning rate and all.
So, when we talk about China, it is the world's best exporter, to be honest, right? It's proved, like China has the ability to produce whatever good they want. So even in India, most of the goods are from China. In SINA Mobility, how is it? So are we exporting from other countries, or are we completely manufacturing things? How the whole build is happening?
Great question. But the thing is, with respect to electronics or semiconductor devices and all, still China is the best. No one can beat. Like, if we especially talk about electronic devices like the touch screens and all those kind of things, the screens and all, still China is the leader, global leader in this thing. Not only that phase, but almost in every phase. Now, considering our vehicle, we are trying to have each and everything made in-house only. Okay, not in-house, but made in India only. Except like consider few of the circuit things that we won't be able to make it here. We are importing it from there, as well as the touch screen that we are importing it from outside. Coming on to things, right now we are only focusing on like the complete design of the vehicle, and as I mentioned, our two key USP was the safety as well as the comfort and convenience of this vehicle. So what we are only focusing is making this whole the safety tech in-house only. That complete tech is in-house, as well as one more thing that I would like to mention here. The whole complete vehicle has been designed completely from scratch. With that, what I mean is, let's suppose that if I have to make a typical two-wheeler, right, what I'll do is that I'll take a similar competitor, right, I'll take that, I'll make that as a base or a benchmark, you can also say it. Benchmark is extremely important for consider, and it is valid for any and every automotive company. You can take any two-wheeler, any EV two-wheeler thing and all. They started basically from a benchmark. So from that benchmark, you basically got the geometry right. In two-wheeler, in four-wheeler, consider any of the automotive, geometry plays the most vital role. That because geometry, so that plays a vital role. So so our vehicle, it is completely like made completely from grounds up. No benchmark, nothing has been taken. So so that vehicle is completely so apart from the battery, the motors, the controllers and all, almost apart from the electronic circuits and all, we are making everything in-house only.
Nice. So balancing bikes concept is now the emerging one, and in our SINA Mobility, the wheels are basically the key role for a vehicle. How we divide the mass of the vehicle, and depending on that, the balancing takes place. So when we are riding a bike, as you mentioned, it either falls on this side or this side. So how this actually happens? So we go in a certain speed, and when we are on the lower speed, it falls on this side or this side. So is this due to the division of mass of the vehicle, or is it some other extensional force which makes this happen?
Okay, great. So here, one of the key thing that plays in with respect to two-wheelers, as you were saying. We have been riding two-wheelers since childhood, since ages, in form of maybe bicycles, motorcycles, or scooters, or those kind of thing. So one of the key thing that you might have seen is post a certain speed, the motorcycle or a bicycle, it is more or less balanced kind of thing, and you don't need to do any other thing. A very important physical concept that comes here is basically conservation of angular momentum. Now, so I'll give a brief intro about this angular momentum thing. So, okay, it is exactly the same thing that I was talking about CMG, right? So, gyroscope, so any and every circular object on the planet, like two-dimensional circular object, if you rotate it at a certain speed, this will be having some moment of inertia, right? So the moment you rotate at a certain speed, it will be having because angular momentum is nothing but angular momentum is a vector quantity having its own direction. In terms of scalar, it is basically I, which is moment of inertia into the rotational velocity. Okay. So as I said that the moment you rotate any circular object, it will be having some moment of inertia. Moment of inertia is a physical quantity of any object that you can consider. It's a physical this thing. Then the moment you multiply it with the angular velocity, you get some kind of value. Now that value is basically in itself is so as I said, conservation of angular momentum. That plays a vital role. So in a very lazy terms, if I can say that this becomes if in a very rude way, if I say, or a very crude way, if I say, then this thing you can perfectly say it is any circular object. The moment you rotate, it becomes a bit lazy. What it means is it tries to basically stay in its own position only. You have to apply a good amount of force to basically shift it. Just to give you a rough idea, take any circular object, spin at a high velocity or consider any velocity. What you will see is that tilting that thing will be a bit different because of the concept which is known as conservation of angular momentum. Angular momentum is, let's suppose that if you're spinning the wheel like this, angular momentum is already here. The point is that if you want to change the direction, then you have to basically apply far more force basically to change the direction. So it basically works on conservation of angular momentum. So I'll be reverting back onto the applying the same thing. So these two wheels, which is in the front and the rear wheels, these are basically circular objects, right? The moment you increase the speed, you are basically increasing the rotational velocity also, right? So as and when both these two rotational velocity, it is beyond that point where this thing. So if you know, every vehicle it is having a center of mass, right? So the moment the center of mass shifted either on the left or right, these two basically the angular momentum which is there, it tries to basically the angular velocity in itself is so high, in terms of the scalar quantity, that in itself is so high that it basically prevents the vehicle to tilt also.
Can we get a real life example? Like, rather than just telling about a person who's driving on a vehicle, let's just take racing bikes where they are in like almost 200, 300 speed. At that speed, how this concept works?
Great. So as I mentioned that 200 is in itself is an extremely high speed. At that speed, forget about even 200. Let's suppose that if I'm driving at 120 or 150 also, right? In that case, the bike will be so much stable. Even if I'm trying to push it, you have to push it at a very high this thing and all to basically, even if we'll try to pull it the other way, the vehicle in itself will trying to bring it back. So here, as I mentioned that the angular momentum of these two wheels. Apart from this thing, the one more thing that comes into picture is the rake angle. So every motorcycle, you might have seen that every motorcycle or bicycle, their front fork, it is leaned at some angle.
Yes.
With respect to vertical. So this, so let's suppose that if this thing is leaned in this angle,
so
this angle is basically
rod which is placed in some certain angle like this.
Yeah, that is basically known as a rake angle. So this rake angle, it basically helps a lot of. Let's suppose that if we talk about MotoGP or these racers and all, they use basically the slip angle that comes from the tire. So for two-wheeler, for any of the two-wheeler performance or any of these things, it plays an extremely vital role. The conservation of this thing. That is the reason how big or how big tires you are using. It basically defines how stable your vehicle will be. This is the first aspect. The other aspect that comes up is that what kind of tire also you are using, especially for the front. That is the reason it is recommended that if you are going to race and all, right, have a wet tire. So wet tire, it is basically a sticky tire. So the moment it is sticky tire, then the slip angle is nothing but the point of contact of the tire to the
so
ground.
It creates more friction.
Yeah. So the more the slip angle will be there, the more it will be stable to ride in cornering and all those kind of things.
Yeah, because actually when we see that, it's actually very curious to see. Like, they actually tilt it very, very low that their knees are touching the ground.
Yeah.
But still they are stable on it.
Yeah, so it is because of two things. A, obviously the angular momentum that is coming into picture. B, rake angle. Because of this rake angle, the slip angle is decided. That also. In fact, you might have seen this. The greater, let's suppose the greater the sports bike is there, the rake angle is comparatively lower, so that the turning and tilting it becomes quite easy.
Oh. I actually never noticed.
Yeah, sure. just to give you a rough idea, I mean, if you consider Harley Davidson, they typically make cruiser motorcycles. Royal Enfield, they make typically cruiser motorcycles. Or so their motorcycle, it is quite easy to drive on highways and all those kind of things as compared to city. I'm not talking about the recent Royal Enfield, but if I consider Royal Enfields in typical, they're this thing like Bullet, Classic and all, they have a rake angle which is more than 25 degrees or something. If I talk about Duke, like KTM Duke and all, their rake angle is somewhere around 24 degrees, 24.1 degree, like CBR 650R, which is there, right? I think CBR 650, or even this one.
Okay.
Yeah, they have somewhere in this 23 degree, 24 degree. So typically they play in this thing. So and you might have seen the cruiser motorcycle. This angle is far more inclined. That helps in the highway highway stability. Yeah. And the lower this thing, it will be easier to have a street navigation.
So after this whole long discussion, how about we go into a path? As an entrepreneur, you have been, it's a journey where we develop. The new generation who is coming out with different ideas and different perspectives, what are they lacking in, or what are the parts they can develop more on?
One of the most important thing is having a persistence and having a passion and a persistence. So the thing is that it is a business that you are developing. It will be having its own time. You need to have a lot of patience. So one I have seen among a lot of students that I'm guiding and mentoring, I have seen they have a little bit of lack of passion. They want the work to be get done like that. In the real world, it doesn't happen. Everything takes its own time and all. Like, I mean, consider if you want a baby, it cannot happen just like that. It will be taking its own time and all. So a similar kind of thing. This is the first thing regarding the patience. The second thing is that follow this passion diligently. You have to follow this passion. Again, one of the most common query that I hear is it is with respect to, let's suppose that if you want to make a hardware kind of thing, or this thing which is quite complicated or sophisticated, since they don't have the funding or since they don't have the money, they can't even start it. So that is where I second with them as of now.
If I can ask you something, in all this journey, every entrepreneur or every person who is into business, they read books. Can you tell us which books did you read, and what is that one book you recommend us to read?
Great. So I don't know how much of my recommendation will be helping, but my whole idea about this entrepreneurship and all, it came basically from a book which is very controversial book, by the way, with the name of Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
This was one of the first book that gave me an idea about starting a business or an entrepreneurship. This was the first thing, and then I have been, so there is one famous book of Elon Musk from Ashley Vance, I think his this thing, because during my journey, when I read that book, that also inspired me a lot. That also inspired me a lot. Apart from this thing, one more book that I'll suggest is Back to Bharat from Mr. Nagaraja Prakasam only. The reason is you will get to know what exactly is real India. Just to give you a rough idea, I mean, to all the students whom I ask, they are basically working on applications, some kind of web app or those kind of thing and all. But the moment you go through the book, you will realize is, I mean, the max to max people that you are working for this thing is not more than 200. So India's population is like 1.4 billion, right?
Yes.
Out of that, like only 200 million people are the guy who are using the internet and smartphones and all those kind of things. Remaining still a lot more, like consider easily 800 million, they are using either they are from the like villages, they don't have idea about this English language, and so that is the reason I'm saying that once you read the Back to Bharat, what are the things, what are the creative things that is going on, you will get to know a lot about these. So these are the few books that I'll recommend.
Amazing. So through all this discussion, it feels bad to wrap it up, but still, my last and final question will be, what are the top 3 highlights that you feel that you can't miss in SINA Mobility?
The first thing is about the journey in itself only, because till now we have made like close to the recent one, I mean, we have developed 4 full-scale model prototype. So starting from a thing where I was having a zero idea about this thing and all, the first prototype that we made, it was completely laughable. I mean, it was the most stupidest one that anyone can think, right? Then coming at a stage where it is a far more sophisticated one as compared to, so this journey in itself. The second thing is about the product in itself, because So initially, like we knew this thing that we are making completely new, different kind of product. So our aim was basically to solve the two-wheeler accident and to make motorbikes as comfortable as safe as cars. I mean, we are also referring it as Mercedes of two-wheelers. Now, so because the moment you hear Mercedes, you think about comfort, safety, and all those kind of. So that is what we are also bringing into picture. Now, so the other thing is about the product that I'm talking about is when we took, I mean, the third prototype only that we developed. When we took a test ride, it was a completely different world, even for us only, because we guys are the creators for this kind of vehicle, right? I mean, for SINA Mobility thing. But then when we took a ride, it was a completely different experience in itself only. When we made a far more, the recent prototype that we made, that we are doing a road testing in our factory in Pina, it was a completely different. It's like that you are sitting exactly like a car, an open convertible car. Like the feeling in itself was completely different. We took it to completely off-roading section and all. There also you won't be feeling that you are riding in an off-road. You feel that you are riding in a typical on-road. I mean, the product itself is coming out to be good. This is the second thing. And the third thing that I will be talking about is the team members. Because of them, obviously the team members, the mentors, and my parents, it would have been impossible. I mean, there have been lots and lots of disagreement between our team and all, but our team had one common goal of making this thing successful. So whichever thing, there had been many situations where my point was wrong, I followed the interns. I mean, those guys were interns only, right? I followed them only. I followed this. I mean, so it all went this thing. So it's the people who made this thing. I mean, that's the only these three highlights.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you.